All right, so I'm going to walk through this quiz for you since we won't have time in class to go over it. I want to make sure that you can see what all the correct answers would be with the solutions. Now, just one thing to note is that the order of this might be different from the order that your quiz was in, because the way that these are set up are that the questions will be shuffled for every student to be in a different order. All right, so for this first one, it says, suppose you are solving a system of equations using the substitution method, and you end up with -2 = 0 as your answer. What does this mean for your solution? All right, so anytime we have something like that, -2 = 0, what that means is since we have no variables here, we have -2 does not actually equal 0. This is one of those where there would be no solution, so you would have selected that one as your correct answer. For this one, it says the graph below represents a system of equations, and so this one is graph for us. We want to find the solution to the system, and we'll write your answer as an ordered pair. So the solution of the system is not any of these other coordinates. It's the spot where these two graphs intersect each other, which is a coordinate where x is 2 and y is -4. So 2, -4 would be your solution. All right, for this one, it says, suppose you solve a system. So this one is similar to the previous one. This time we get 0 = 0 as our answer. What does this mean for your solution? This does not mean the answer is 0, 0. This means that since it is a true statement, 0 does equal 0, we would say there are infinite solutions. All right, for this one, it says we're going to solve this system. Or if we were to use the substitution method, what would you substitute in the second equation if you wanted to solve for x? So let's look at that first equation. So first equation, we have x minus 3y equals -5. And so if we were to solve for x, I'm going to do this over here on the right side, or on this piece of paper on the right side here. So if we have x minus 3y equals -5, if I wanted to solve for x, I'm going to add 3y to both sides to get the x by itself. Now when you did this, it really doesn't matter. You could have had 3y minus 5. You could have had -5 plus 3y. Any of those would have been the correct solution. And so then what we would type down here would be, we already have the parentheses, so we would have 3y minus 5 as our answer. All right, so this one, it says consider the system of equations. What would you multiply the second equation by if you wanted to eliminate the x's? So if we wanted to get rid of the x's, since the first equation already has a -7, to get rid of the x's, we would multiply both equations by a +7. So in that way, we'd have 7x plus 21y equals 49. But you'd multiply the second equation by 7. So here it says solve the system using any method of your choice. Write your answer as a coordinate. Unless there is no solution, respond with none. If there are infinite solutions, respond with infinite. All right, so for this one, I'm going to do this work over here on the right, again on my little scratch paper here. So if we have 18x minus 20y equals -20 for the first problem, we have -9x plus 10y equals 10. So what I'm going to do is I want to get rid of the x's because I see that this is a +18 and I have a -9. So if I just multiply by 2, I would end up with a -18x. So first I'm going to rewrite that first equation. So then when I multiply by everything by 2, I get -18x plus 20y equals 20. So when I add these together, not only do the x's disappear, but also the y's, because the -20 plus 20 would equal 0 as well. And on the right side, -20 plus 20, that also equals 0. So this is one of those where we get 0 equals 0. So that is a true statement. So this is where we would type in infinite as our answer. By the way, I see that I have a typo. If that ever happens, by the way, if you're trying to type in an answer and it doesn't fit, I've had people comment about that. It's probably because it's the wrong answer. In this case, I was misspelling the word infinite. So that's always a kind of a telltale thing, that if something's not fitting in there right, believe me, it should fit if it's the correct answer. So infinite, when spelled correctly, should fit in that spot. All right, so this one, it says if you're solving a system of linear equations graphically, what would infinite solutions look like on the graph? Okay, if they're two parallel lines, that means they would never intersect. So they would never have a solution. So they would never have a common answer. So it's not two parallel lines. Two lines that are the exact same and on top of each other. That sounds about right. So let's click that one. But let's just double check. Let's read the other ones. They never intersect the x-axis. Nope, that's not right. And the last one, that's just a silly answer. So this is the correct answer here. Number 8, solve the system using any method of your choice. Write your answer as a coordinate. And let's, okay, so just like the previous problem. So over here, I'm going to get rid of my what I did before. And let's do this one. So we'd have 9x minus 2y equals negative 25. Negative 18x minus 5y equals negative 22. Again, before we go to do anything, I want to either use substitution or elimination. I'm going to use substitution. This time, I'm going to multiply the top one by 2 to get 18x minus 4y equals negative 50. The key is you want to make sure you multiply everything by 2 in that first equation. The second equation I'm going to leave as negative 18x. We would have minus 5y equals negative 22. So now we're going to add these. So this time only the x's cancel out. So we have negative 4y minus 5y would be negative 9y equals, and then we'd have negative 72. So if I divide both sides by negative 9, I get y equals a positive 8. Because negative 72 divided by negative 9 would be positive 8. So that's my y solution, y part of my solution. Now I've got to figure out what's the x part of my solution. So to find that out, I'm going to put y into either one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one. So if I were to do the first one, let's say, I'd have 9x minus 2 times my y value, which is 8, equals negative 25. So 9x, negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. And if I add 16 to both sides, I'd have negative 9. And if I divide both sides by 9, I get x equals negative 1. So our solution, we want to write our answer as a coordinate, just like it said in the instructions. So our answer would be negative 1 for x, and y would be 8. So we want to make sure we put that in the right order. You can also remember double check your answer. We could have put negative 1 in for x into both of these equations and 8 in for y. So like for the first one, if I put negative 1 in for x, I'd have negative 9. And then put 8 in for y, we'd have negative 16. So sure enough, negative 9 minus 16 is negative 25. And if I put negative 1 in for x in the second equation, I get positive 18. And negative 5 times 8 would be negative 40. So if I took 18 minus 40, sure enough, I'd get negative 22. So that's a quick, easy way to make sure that you have the correct answer. All right, so number 9, we're doing another one of solving a system of equations. And so let me write those down. So we'd have negative 12x plus 10y equals negative 21. And the second one, we have negative 6x plus 5y equals negative 14. All right, so let's get rid of the x's. This time I'm going to multiply by a negative 2. And the reason for that is because since we have a negative 12 already, I want this x to be a positive. So we want the opposite signs but the same values. Or like I like to say, same value but opposite sign. And so the first equation, that's not going to change. So I'm going to rewrite that. For the second equation, let's become a positive 12x, a minus 10y, and then that would be a positive 28. So now when I add these two together, again, just like a couple problems ago, the x's disappear and the y's disappear, leaving us with 0 on the left. But on the right, negative 21 plus 28, that's a positive 7. And that is not true. 0 does not equal 7. That is a false statement. So this is a scenario where we would say our answer would be none. There are no solutions. All right, so this one, it says if you were solving a system of linear equations graphically, what would no solutions look like on the graph? And so it would be either A, the lines are too difficult to graph by hand, two lines that are exact and on top of each other, two parallel lines, they never intersect the x-axis. So again, if there's no solutions, it means that there's going to be parallel lines and never going to intersect. All right, so let's look at this last one here. It says solve the system using any method of your choice. Write your answer coordinate unless there's no solution. All right, so here we have negative 4x minus y equals negative 11. And then we'd have negative 8x plus 4y equals negative 4. All right, so for this one, let's say if I want to get rid of the y's on the first one. So if I want to get rid of because the reason why I say that is because I want to have the same values but opposite signs. And I notice I already have a positive 4y, so if I just multiply this first one by 4, that'll work out nicely. So I'd have negative 16x minus 4y equals negative 44. And then the second equation stays the same. And so when I add these, negative 16 and negative 8, when I add those together, that would be negative 24x. The y's are 0. And on the right, I would have negative 48. So if I divide both sides by negative 24, I'd get x equals positive 2. So now I'm going to put 2 into one of the equations. It does not matter which one we use. So I'm just going to use the second one just because we have a smaller value there for our answer. So if I put 2 into the second equation, I'd have, I'm just going to write this down as negative 16 because negative 8 times 2 would be negative 16 plus 4y equals negative 4. So if I add 16 to both sides, I would get 12. And then to solve this, I would divide by 4, so I get y equals 3. So my answers were x equals 2, y equals 3. And again, we could double check our work, because negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And if I put 3 in here, we'd have negative 3. So negative 8 minus 3, sure enough, is negative 11. And negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. 4 times 3 is 12. So negative 16 plus 12 is negative 4. So always double check and make sure that you have the correct answer. And that is the end of the quiz. So you can see that it only took me almost 12 minutes here. And that was with explaining as I went along. So I see that a lot of you guys got done in well under the required class time, so good job if that happened for you. And if you did push for the entire time that I gave you, you want to make sure you know your material because the test is going to have a lot more information that was covered on this quiz. So good luck as you prepare and take that test.